Hey guys, and welcome back. This is part 2 of our mini-series. Last time we finished with putting all the embroidery markings on our paper pattern pieces. So now it's time to scan the pattern pieces in with the embroidery markings. I put an orange piece of paper behind the pattern pieces just to get a better contrast and see them better. Also, I am a paper person, so I need to take all the paper pieces and archive them because maybe I will need them later on. It just helps me sleep better at night. After that is done, I go ahead, put all the pieces that I scanned into one file and trace them. I do this the simplest way possible. I just open up GIMP, make a new layer, and on this layer I trace the outline of the pieces and the embroidery markings too. Now I gone ahead, blew it up to roughly 200%, so twice the size that it was. Now I'm just gonna need to reassemble the pieces because printing them out on one sheet of paper isn't possible anymore. They are quite big right now. And you can see the markings for the embroidery are just so I know where they go. It's nothing really detailed. After I put all the pieces together, now I can go and make my tea. Now I can go and make the pieces symmetrical again, because tracing them with hand isn't really going to make them symmetrical, so I just fold them in half and do that by hand, cutting off a bit with the scissors. I also go ahead and color code the pieces so I don't waste any fabric, because I tend to cut out pieces from the wrong color, but if I color code my pieces I won't make that mistake. I also mark the colors of the embroidery, and now I'm also ready to go ahead and work on the embroidery files themselves. What you will now see is a little bit boring because it doesn't look like I am doing anything, but I'm actually making the embroidery file. I import the traced scan just as a base, and based on that I start making the embroidery file. It's just a tedious process of going back and forth and adjusting and rotating, changing the density, changing the width, arranging the colors in the right order, making holes where you put colors on top so you don't stitch like 3 times in the same place, because that embroidery will not only look bad but can also break your needle while embroidering. So as you can see, I am still working on that, and that video is sped up I think 8 times, so it's quite a long process. And again, just tweaking here and there. I am now at a point where most of the time my first embroidery is okay, but about 10 to 15% of the time the first embroidery doesn't make it to the final plush, because I forget to set the right density and I can see the color from the material below, or something else goes wrong. So now you see me adjusting the embroidery size to my paper pattern. Like I said, I'm a paper person. I cannot work without a piece of paper and a pattern. So now that this first piece is done, I'll just go ahead, and I have my embroidery machine hooked up to my laptop, so I just can go ahead and transfer the file directly to my embroidery machine. I love choosing the colors. This is like my favorite part for embroidery, always to choose matching colors. And now that the embroidery is going on in the back, I am just going back to work on the other embroidery files. Again, you will see me tracing pieces, then tweaking adjusting over again and again, just the same thing. And I know it doesn't look like much, but I thought I include, it's not the whole footage of me making embroidery files, don't worry about that. But people tend to think that, oh, it's so easy, you just put it in the machine and it's done. No, it's actually not that easy. So now I go ahead and try the other half of the head. Also, on this half of the head we have an eye patch of sorts, so I decided to do applique for that, because I always think that with big parts embroidery doesn't look as nice as just applique. So here we have the patch with some colored minky made, and now the embroidery machine goes ahead and just stitches out the outline. I'd like to make my applique with the embroidery machine if it fits, or I always use the embroidery machine because it's just a nicer finish, and I like that look. So while that is going on, I am back again to make now the embroidery pattern files for the body. This turned out to be a bit more difficult than I thought, because the big embroidery on the butt on the right side didn't quite fit into my big embroidery hoop, into my biggest one, and the first time I messed it up because I took the piece of fabric that I took was too small, so I ended up remaking it and changing it a bit in the process. But basically, again, sitting there and just tweaking around to get the order, the density, and the angles right. That's basically embroidery files in the making, at least for me. I hope that was at least kinda interesting for you. It's all part of my plush making process. If you have any questions or would like to say that I'm doing it wrong, I would kind of be happy to hear from you guys. See you in the next part. Bye.